Hello, this is Patrick, one of the Wild Guys. This is my YouTube intro with some of the Wild Guys. We will be canoeing and rafting rivers and lakes and even out in the Pacific Ocean in the Northwest Territories in the Yukon and British Columbia. This is 2007 and the rafting trip on the Nahanni is about to begin. The first part of the video will be getting ourselves ready and our supplies to make sure we have everything with us and we're all done planning. We'll be gathering in Kelowna and then going up through Alberta to Fort Simpson. There we will be boarding a 2-engine aircraft and flying off to Rabbit Kittle, where the rafting trip will start. 60% of those that go down the Nahanni from the Virginia Falls have a guide. An unguided trip of the Nahanni will take a lot of planning. We all had to get on a scale to check out the weight of our personal gear. So here we are doing our planning. We are looking forward to seeing the Virginia Falls. 315 feet, making it twice the height of the Niagara Falls. It consists of a single drop with an average width of 259 meters or 850 feet. But we got to get our stuff all packed here or we're never going to get out there. So let's get this stuff packed up and get on the road. The Nahanni National Park Reserve encompasses 30,000 square kilometers. The Nahanni National Park is 300 miles west of Yellowknife. The park is 11,000 square miles. It was named a national park in 1976, and then in 1978 it was also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The park is surrounded by huge peaks and features geysers and sinkholes and deep canyons and caves and gorges, and was one of the deepest river canyon systems in the world. The Virginia Falls are the most seen destination in Canada's Northwest Territories. You'll both see and hear a lot about the Virginia Falls. All our gear and food is carefully checked before leaving. Near the Virginia Falls, you're going to see lots of old fossils. Oh, we got some more old fossils coming out there too. The boys have got to pick up their pace, it looks like.
And well, guys, we got Jim and we got John here. They're starting to load up the gear right now.
I spelt Nahanni with an A. It should be an I. It was on my other camera that got stole. I can't change it. We've covered many rivers and lakes in British Columbia, Northwest Territories, and the Yukon. Oh, and we traveled through Alberta, parts of it. All our adventures have been by canoe, but on the Nahanni, we're taking a big rubber raft. It's going to be a good one. This is the 21-foot Avon raft that we rented to go down the Nahanni. Weighs about 250 pounds, plus the weight of all the duct tape that was holding the raft together. If you rent a piece of equipment, go over it very thoroughly. You just can't take it for granted. Make sure there's a patching repair kit and the tools to put them on. Also some tools to put the frame on that you can sit and row from. Also information on the primer and also the glue would be handy. Don't be like us, sitting alongside the Nahanni out in the middle of nowhere with a raft with one side flat on it. And we open up the can to do the repairing, and it's just a pile of rusted junk. The park's brands at the Nahanni don't let you have an open fire, so this is a collapsible stove we have. I believe you can buy them or rent them. We made ours. The rest is food and other supplies. The Nahanni is true wilderness, mostly unexplored. The park is almost entirely covered by boat or by plane, but seldom on foot. This is Doug here. Doug was with us on many of these trips that we went on. Great guy. This is Bill. We call him our crew chief. He's the one that got this all started.
How you doing? You're all set to rock and roll?
We're set.
We want to thank Bill. He's the one that come up with this plan.
Hey, Mark.
It's easy to sit around the coffee maker and talk about adventures like this. We have talkers and we have doers. Bill was a doer.
Are you all ready?
No.
This is 1 decade of paddling for you.
Mark is one of the original Wild Guys. It started a decade ago.
Now the boys are going to start to organize things for us just before we leave. Okay, this is the guys for the 2007 decade Cruise of the Nahanni River.
In the back, you see another John. John number 2 has been with us for some time. Great guy, great paddler. Then you'll see some of the wives, Sandy, Dragitza, and Barbara. They don't look that sad to see us go. This is the van that we rented from Budget Rental, $1,100 for a return trip. And then we took Jim's truck along with us as well. We were loaded, but not necessarily overloaded. The 2007 Wild Guys trip to do the Nahanni is now on its way. Traveling the way that we traveled through Alberta and up into the north, the distance was 2,325.16 kilometers. We took the Mackenzie Highway. It was a beautiful trip. We're finally on the road.
Well, we've been on the road about 15 minutes. We're making our first stop, Timmy's. I have to stay out and guard the vehicles. They're going in. They're going into the Timmy place. And I'll stay out here. I hope they bring me a donut hole or something like that, a tidbit, that's what they call it. And there's Jim. Well, Jim, what do you think? The boys are all lined up at Timmy's. Gonna get some food, I think. Look pretty excited.
We're now leaving Vernon and heading east.
Well, we've been on the road about 2 hours, maybe a little more, and we've got the boys stopping again for something to eat, something to drink, and all kinds of things like that.
Sorry about the typo of Nahanni. I had the camera and the original tape stolen, and it couldn't be changed except for on the camera and the original tape. So we'll just have to leave that typo there. Just put an I in place of the A, you'll be okay. That will be the last time you have to look at the misspelling of Nahanni. Good.
There's Mount Robson, guys.
Mount Robson is 3,954 meters, and it is also the highest peak in the Canadian Rockies, often referred to as the world's crown jewel. Mount Robinson is about 79 kilometers from Jasper. Mount Robinson was designated a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 1990. Okay, it's a sign and I guess a monument of a goat, but we haven't seen any goats for till now, so I guess we might as well use this one.
Well, the boys are under the Mount Robson right now.
Okay, we got a long ways to go to Nahanni, so we're going to be leaving Mount Robinson now. The Budget Rental is doing well.
Hope she holds on. I hope the tires work.
A number of rafting companies operate in the area along the various sections of the Fraser River. We are in Jasper National Park now in British Columbia. One of the nicest parks that we have in British Columbia. You'll always see lots of animals there. And here's an elk that we come across just feeding alongside the road. Not far from Jasper National Park, we have another park called the Banff National Park. Both are beautiful parks. We're very privileged to have these parks in British Columbia and Alberta. We want to say thanks to our Parks branch. They do a good job. We're going to leave Jasper now and head further east. Our first night will be in Hinton, Alberta. Just taking a few things into our motel room. We will be telling a few stories tonight. Before the boys fall asleep, I'll give you a little bio on them. On the left is Jim. He worked for the search and rescue team out of Victoria. Next there's Mark. He was with the law enforcement and securities. Then there was the second John who worked for the forest industry, and he did a lot of mapping and planning. That should help us from getting lost. This is Doug. He's in the social and humanities side, and his job is to keep us all happy. I wonder what Doug's got planned for our welfare tonight. We'll just have to wait and see. Doug has a movie night set up for us tonight. That's going to be great. This is John also. He's from the social and humanities side, keeping us all in line. John took a very active role in the planning of this trip. And this is Patrick. I'm the one that's the wannabe videoer and moderator, mechanic, and some hunting and trapping. This is Bill. He was in the correction side of things. Bill's going to have his hands full with this crew. We rented a raft, and we should have did a little bit of checking of the raft and the safety tools for repairing it. It was in need of repair. The patching kit was full of water and rust. The moose was even laughing at our raft as he peeked around the corner. We're at Rabbit Kettle putting the rack onto the raft. Later on, we're going to be patching it. The moose is keeping an eye on us. The tools for putting on the frame, the 1/4-inch ratchet to put the frame on that we sit on to row, was sitting in the same water and rust. We had to put a little rock inside the ratchet so it would lock and actually let us turn the ratchet. But we made it work and we got it done. Doug was one of the drivers that drove us up there. We're in the Peace River. It's a beautiful area. Seemed like oil and gas and the farming seemed to go hand in glove. In 2007, the Nahanni National Park was voted one of the 7 wonders of Canada in a competition that was sponsored by the CBC. We're getting closer to Fort Simpson, but we stop at various different towns along the way, and it's a beautiful trip. Driving from Kelowna to Fort Simpson, then flying to Rabbit Kittle, and rafting back out and going back to Fort Simpson, picking up our vehicles and coming back to Kelowna would take about 14 days. High Level is one of the newest towns in Alberta, has a population of 1,316 and is well known for the Northern Lights. You can see beautiful Northern Lights in that community. Many people travel there just to see the Northern Lights. We will be overnighting in High Level and then moving on tomorrow for our final push to Fort Simpson and our plane ride out to Rabbit Kittle. Here are these wild guys trying to mix me up. I guess that's not that hard.
High Prairie.
High Prairie.
Grand Level.
Okay.
Sorry it's not an AW, Pat.
Okay. High Level. Well, we're in High Level. This is the second day. Everything seems to be going pretty good. We seen a moose today, didn't get a picture of it. Seen a beaver today, didn't get a picture of it. Seen a deer today, didn't get a picture of it, but that's fine.
You're going to see a fairly comfortable room here tonight. We should appreciate it because tomorrow night we'll be in the Northwest Territories and the plane will dump us off at Rabbit Kittle. We'll be sleeping on the ground out there with all the little critters and big critters around us. Jim and Bob are checking out the room to see which one they want to have. I marked out my bed with my hat. Hopefully it doesn't get moved. High Level is mostly north of Grand Prairie, about 452 kilometers, at the intersection of the Mackenzie Highway.
Okay. Well, it's day 3. We're in High Level. Jim is coming out with some goodies. We're just getting loaded up to take our last leg of the trip. Well, it's the morning of the 3rd day. We're traveling down the Mackenzie Highway, and we're heading for the last stop up the Nahanni River to be dumped unceremoniously on the beach, hopefully.
We will soon be crossing the Liard River, very close to Fort Simpson. When we take the Nahanni River from Rabbit Kittle all the way back and pull our rafts out, it will be out in Nahanni Butte. This will be very close to where we pull our raft out and the trip ends. This is not far from the Alaska Highway and the Liard Hot Springs. I've been there a number of times while traveling the Alaska Highway. Out of respect for those that come before us, we should know a little about their history of Native people. First there along the Liard and the Mackenzie was the Slavey people, while in the mountainous region to the west was 2 nomad bands of natives, the Kaska and the Naha. The white European fur traders later called them the Nahannis. This is the home to many of the natives that came long before us. About 50% of the canoe trips down the Nahanni are done by guides. We chose to do it on our own. Let's see how that's going to work out. These are guided tours of both the rafting and the canoeing down the Nahanni. We took some pictures of these on our way down when we come down the Nahanni. In Canada, the 60th parallel forms the southern mainland border of the Northwest Territories, Nunavut, with the western provinces of BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. Lots of mosquitoes here.
Okay, you guys stand still, eh? No moving around. There's a bear beside you, Jim. Okay, that's where we're all heading. As the wild guys, they look pretty rough and rugged. But really, they got a pretty soft side to them. We'll catch you guys later. We're moving on over into the Northwest Territories.
The region surrounding the Nahanni contains rugged mountains and one of the deepest river canyon systems in the world. It also hosts one of the most remarkable crust limestone landscapes found anywhere. Caves, hot springs, tufa mounds, sand blowouts, spectacular plateaus, fossils, and other countless geological phenomena are evident along the Nahanni Valley. We just stopped for a break here along the Mackenzie Highway, and we'll be moving on pretty soon to Trout River. About the weather on the Nahanni, you're going to hit some nice warm weather during July and probably parts of August, but you're going to hit some cold weather as well. One thing to remember is even though there was the first week of August, we hit some very, very cold winds, wet winds, and it just goes right through your body. Make sure you have some dry and warm clothing and footwear, or else you're going to have a very uncomfortable deal in the afternoon when them wet winds come up and hit you. But then there would be other days where you got very warm weather as well. I had some wet gear, and in the cold weather it was really good at keeping me warm. But if it got warm outside, you better get it off or you're going to dehydrate you.
Well, we're at Trout River. I'll give you a few shots of that. Hope there's some trout there.
The power of Trout River was very surprising. I didn't realize before getting there just how fast and powerful the river really was. These are the Coral Falls. You can't see them from the highway as they're down the river a ways. We didn't get to see these, but I got a print of them. This isn't going to happen very often, but I'll be quiet for a while and let you just look at the Trout River and form your own opinion how you'd like to go down that particular body of water. It's called Trout River, but it's not a real big river, but it's certainly got some very fast and lots of rapids in it.
Much tamer here. Up through there. That's Jim going down. Going down to get some shots down there.
I was very impressed with the Trout River. A lot of water. The Grand Canyons of the Nahanni, which you're going to see when you go down there, is Canada's deepest river canyons. They're up to 12,000 meters deep. In some areas, the canyon walls come right in on you and the water just shoots right through there. You've heard me say that we have been canoeing throughout British Columbia, Northwest Territories, and the Yukon. But I forgot, I got to give credit to Alberta as well, because in this particular trip, we're traveling part of the way up through Alberta as we go to Fort Simpson, and then we fly out to Rabbit Kettle. Make sure that the Nahanni is on your bucket list to do. I was very grateful because we had a lot of good experienced paddlers, but I was not on that particular list. Based on the gray hair, you can see that we're sort of outside those limits. Well, at least some of us are outside those limits anyways. Now we're still here at Trout River, but we're going to be moving on fairly soon into Fort Simpson. Got to get going. One last look at fast water here at Trout River, then we're moving on. We're going to see a lot of black bears and grizzly bears on this trip. Here's one of the ones that we've encountered. We are now approaching the Liard River. The Liard River is a long one. It's 1,115 kilometers long and a tributary into the Mackenzie River, which flows into the Arctic. I guess I don't have to tell you, I've seen lots of mosquitoes and bugs on their way up. It collects water all the way back to the Mounds in the Yukon to the northeast. It also collects water all the way back into northern British Columbia, the Dease Lake area. Also, you've seen some pictures earlier of the Trout River. So it picks up water from there. So it is a very big area that it collects the water from. We're loading up on the ferry on the Liard River. Up until now, we used some of our video footage and our prints that we had taken and others that we inserted to show you what you're going to see. But from here on, everything is going to be pretty well live. The Liard River is covered with ice nearly 6 months a year. I don't think we need much more cooling. The Liard River is 1,115 kilometers long and is located in an area of discontinuous permafrost, and the region is characterized by short dry summers and long cold winters. The Nahanni also flows into the Liard just past Nahanni Butte as a route to the Yukon Gold Rush from 1897 to 1899. Seemed like everything followed the Klondike Gold Rush. In 1942, the Alaska Highway was built alongside the Liard River from Trout River to Watson Lake. This construction seemed to spur on the development of the Liard Hot Springs, a very popular place for people to stop as they come down the highway. We are going to stay focused on the Nahanni though, not the Liard. We will be flying out to Rabbit Kettle on the Nahanni later on today. The wild guys are getting excited. Yes, this ferry ride is going to be over soon. We're going to be across the Liard, then a little short trip into Fort Simpson, and we'll snoop around there a bit and get set up to take our plane out to Rabbit Kettle, where we'll be launched onto the Nahanni River. The ferry we come across had a diesel-powered engine, so it was pretty loud. We couldn't talk to the boys, but we're going to be heading in here pretty soon on the highway, and we'll get a chance to talk down the road. Wow, we made her into Fort Simpson already. There's some things we haven't told you about Billy though. He's packing a purse. It was good to see Mark, the retired RCMP officer, go and talk to the local member, and they brought the purse there that we found.
Hey Billy, can you show us your purse? That's our plane, Jim.
So we're at the float plane base where we're going to be loading up everything and heading out to our destination at Rabbit Kettle. A challenge on a trip like this is to have everything you need, but not the stuff that you don't need, that you end up packing back home again without even using. We're loading all the stuff that we have, including the rack that we had for the top of the for our raft, and we're getting all the gear into it now. Hopefully they don't forget any of mine, and we'll be up in the air here pretty fast. The gentleman in the middle of the picture with a white t-shirt on is the one who delivered our beer to Rabbit Kettle a few days later. We didn't go to Moose Ponds. It had category 2 and 3 rapids and was known as the Boulder Gardens. So to protect our raft, we stopped at Rabbit Kettle. We didn't think we had enough masking tape to come from Moose Pond. This is a group coming through Boulder Gardens. We would have never got our raft through there and patch all the holes in our raft. It was full of boulders, so we will put our raft in at Rabbit Kettle. This is a map of Nahanni National Park. Enough talking about getting our airplane up in the air. We're taking off now. This is going to be the third day of traveling by vehicle, but it looks like now we're going to be up in the air and heading to our destination. Next, we'll be flying over the largest expanse of wilderness in the world. On this Nahanni trip, there's going to be a lot of the first or the greatest in the world. We're just taxiing out into the water now and going to be lifting off very shortly. You'll probably hear the roar. Fort Simpson was first started as a fur trading site in 1803, then named Fort of the Forks. The village of Fort Simpson was a permanent settlement in July 1822, when the Hudson Bay Company constructed a trading post, naming it for George Simpson, then the governor of Rupert Sound. This is another aerial view of Fort Simpson. It was like an island where the two rivers, the Mackenzie and the Liard, came together. This is the start of our flight up the South Nahanni to Rabbit Kettle. Our venture is on. The wild guys are enjoying their view of the South Nahanni and the Nahanni Park and getting as many pictures as possible. I'll let you hear the engine of the aircraft for a few seconds. We traveled over a lot of mountains, but muskegs too, as you can see here. back, there was inhabitants of this area in the mountainous region. These people they lived and covered a lot of the mountainous region. Many times they were referred to as the Nahanni, and yet in a very short period of time they mysteriously disappeared. As the Europeans started to immigrate to North America and into that area, they set up fur trading posts. This made a change to the people that were referred to as the Nahanni. In the 19th century, most Dene families left their nomadic lifestyle and settled into permanent communities, often close to the trading posts. The original establishment of the park in 1972 was done by the Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. The park was in reverse status pending the settlement of an outstanding Aboriginal land claims in the region. In 2003, an agreement between the Dakha First Nations and Canada Parks gave a temporary protection of 23,000 square kilometers. The wild guys got their head out of the window just long enough to be able to get a photo shot of them. This is a map of the Nahanni. We flew out to Rabbit Kettle. You'll see it on the map. Rabbit Kettle you'll see on the left side. Fort Simpson will be on the right side. This is a log-built Anglican church in the Northwest Territories, built in 1880. Fort Simpson had a special visitor come and see them there. Pope John Paul, on his second attempt, visited Fort Simpson in September of 1987, near the end of the tour of the United States, making a side trip to Fort Simpson. Fort Simpson was well known for its history in religion. It goes back a long way. There was many different denominations of Christian religion. As we fly to Rabbit Kettle down the Nahanni, we'll be watching for the ecological regions. There's about 4 of them in the Northwest Territories. We won't know which ones they are, but we're watching out the window. Of the Taiga Plains, we'll be watching for the Taiga Cordillera, the Boreal Cordillera, and the Ram Plateau. By looking out the window, you're going to notice that there's many different formations of mountains. The Ram Plateau is my kind of mountain. You look up there and it's got a nice flat top. Otherwise, you're climbing up to the very top, only to step over and go down, and then you have to go back up again. Takes a lot out of a guy, I tell you. We're also going to be watching for the world's largest subarctic Tufa mounds. If we don't see them on the plane, we're walking in to see them. You'll see them too. But I'll give you a preview of what they look like before we get there. Yes, another greatest in the world sites in the Nahanni National Park. The geological points of interest is the Ragged Range, Rabbit Kettle, Virginia Falls, Dead Man Valley, the Cross Hot Springs, and the Sand Blowouts. How would you like to be walking across this mountain range? We're told there's 500 grizzlies down there where we're going camping, and guess what? We seen 4 of them. There's also stalagmites and stalactites in there, and ice crystal caves, lots to see if you have time to get up into them. You're now going to see the Nahanni River as it cuts its way through the mountains and rock. These pictures will be right close to the Ram Plateau, or just below. As you look down below, you'll understand why so many people go missing in this wilderness. It's not going to be very long when we will be in Rabbit Kettle. Then paddling 4 or 5 days on the Nahanni River, we're going to be anxious to get our way to the hot springs. And at the hot springs, we'll have a nice, refreshing bath. But first, we know we're going to be looking forward when we land to make our way on a guided tour to the Tufa Mountains. We're coming into a landing at Rabbit Kettle. Then we'll load up all our gear, which we'll take with us down the Nahanni River. Enough dreaming about what is coming ahead. We've landed now, so we're going to go live. The plane will only land long enough to get rid of us and our gear. It's already ready to take off. Soon our raft will be in the Nahanni River and our trip will begin.
Now what?
Well, God, you think we'll find our way home?
Not a chance.
When's the next flight out?
Not a chance.
He's leaving us here.
Now it's just us and the Nahanni National Park. Now we can focus on what's ahead. And tomorrow we're off to see the Tufa Mounds. This is a good place to end Series 1. Series 2 will be there to follow as we're going down the Nahanni. There's a lot to see. Join us again for Series 2.